Hello everybody, it's Adelaja here. I'm here to comment on my trip to Brazil, and people want to know, people are always asking what are my impressions and my opinion and my feelings. Well, I've been doing this series and what that I call my impressions from Brazil. And today I'm going to be talking about my encounter. Actually, I think we are calling the topic My Encounters in Brazil. So my encounter with Brazil and her church. Well, Brazil is a blessed country because it's one of the most dynamic churches right now in the world. The Church of Brazil is one of the fastest growing churches if you compare to other countries. They have a dynamic church, especially the Pentecostal charismatic movement. At a point, Brazil used to have 90% Catholic, but now I think it's almost like every fourth Brazilian now is evangelical. So it's a wonderful, wonderful transformation that has taken place in Brazil through the Pentecostal movement. Even though the Pentecostal movement was started there by European missionaries, they have been able to grow and overwhelmingly to be one of the largest Pentecostal denominations in the world. I had the opportunity to preach in one of the oldest Pentecostal churches in Brazil. The Pentecostal denomination has up to 20 million people in Brazil, but the Pentecostals themselves and the charismatic people are much more. Maybe they're up to 50 million people or so in Brazil, or maybe 30, 40 million people in Brazil. So the church is vibrant in Brazil. Next year, they want me to come and teach pastors. They have thousands of pastors that they want me to train. It's going to be a conference, a pastors' conference to train pastors. And I was able to preach only 3 times when I was there. So I preached in the conference, and apart from that, I preached in Pentecostal Church, the Assemblies of God of Brazil. And then I preached in one of the new churches, Guide Church. They have a lot of new independent churches, interdenominational churches. So this new one is one of the high-flying churches. It's a kingdom church. It's pastored by Altamir Jr., who is the son of the president of Adelaja. Very great, dynamic, handsome young man, and his beautiful family. Gave us a very, very great treatment as well. I'm going to show you some of the pictures, and so that you will see and have experienced some of the life in the Brazilian church. Okay, let me start by showing you the picture of my host. Mr. Altamir Cunha is my host. That is where we're sitting down there with him and the whole council, the Supreme Council of the Adonep movement. So that's when I just came. I was just coming from the airport. And right from the airport, we didn't get our luggage, so we just went to the stage. Thank God I was dressed. Yeah, I think I was ready to preach, but I had to get a shoe though. Somebody gave me a shoe from my team. But that is Mr. Altamir Cunha there. And then that second picture there is with my interpreter. That interpreter, translator, is the son of Altamir Sr., and he's the one that I said is the young pastor of the interdenominational church that is called the Guide Church. They are the new dynamic churches. They have a lot of them growing up in Brazil right now. I went to his church to preach just before I left. The last Sunday, the Sunday that I left was when I preached in his church. Also the one interpreting for me there. He and his whole family is they are dedicated to the church. Then, of course, I went to that Pentecostal Assembly of God church that I told you about. That is a historic church. This church has been established in the 50s, has been built there. And I was taken it there by the senator and the chairman of the party, and the person that I spoke about is a senator and is a head of a party. So, yeah, that's his church. He's also an assistant pastor in that church. So you see the beauty of that church. Beautiful church, beautiful building, beautiful interior. And this was a pastors' meeting. Maybe they had about 1,000 pastors, ministers there that day. It was a Monday. So the pastors and the leaders were there, and we were praying for them and having a wonderful Wonderful. So this is the denomination that has, about 20 million people in the country, and they want me to come back and train their pastors. So they will have a few thousand pastors there, and we plan to go back and be a blessing to Brazil. So, well, they're also working on translating my books. I brought my books in English, so they want to translate them. We gave them 20. So by the time we get there next year, maybe they have 20 of my books in Portuguese. So, yeah, we hope that the kingdom influence will grow more and more in the nation of Brazil. Praise God.